Welcome to the last session of Indieway. Togay Kurtulus is going to with us, and he is going to talk about the long path of developers. He's going to talk about his own experience, challenges, and will offer some solutions to the problems. Thank you. Hello, welcome. This is the last speech of the event. The energy was great, by the way. I have to say it. All participants, speakers, very experienced people shared their own experiences. So I'd like to thank you all. My name is Togay Kurtulus. Some of you might know me, but let me just introduce myself. I work as a part-time project manager in Upgrade, and also we have developed a game, and I'm part of the whole processes of the game development. Of course, there are good experiences and there are bad experiences. I'll share them all. I was sitting in your seats a few years ago. You're in a great community. Thank you very much for being here. Well, I'll speak around like 25 to 30 minutes. I'm very excited, so please do not interrupt me, but in the end, I'll receive your questions. Thank you. Unreal Blueprint Spaghetti. I've just put them. I don't know if you have seen it before. I wish only problem was the spaghetti code. So this is just like a long path. It is a really, really long and stressful path, but in the end, there is a solution. There comes a solution. There are many people who have suffered and solved the problems. We should learn everything beforehand, and what I'll do is just define it, and as well give you some clues. So please be participative. I'm really curious about your questions. There is no certain answers, or they're not like one single answer to all problems. I'll just share my own experience. So this is the game that I have. The story is very interesting, by the way. Probably there are like a few people who played it already. Is there anyone who remembers anything about this game? You know that it is made out of the impossibilities. There was nothing to play. But then we have seen the game, and there were a lot of as well imitations of it. I wanted to do it in the past, but I couldn't. This is, I think, the worst scene, I believe. I wouldn't share any spoiler, though. It's not a new game, though. So it is a really thin line that you walk through. It makes you feel really interesting feelings. And I think that game development is really similar to that. It is very dark. It's a long, thin path, and while you're scared, but you still keep going. Of course, you can receive some supports via the lights, and your path can be enlightened. Is there anyone among us who has developed a game and has not really launched it to the STEM? Well, yes, I see a few hands. Okay, let's start. In the game, there are confusions because there are, I believe, like 5 components. Let me just make a short definition that I gathered from Wikipedia. According to Wikipedia, an indie game is short for independent video game, is a video game typically created by individuals or smaller development teams without the financial and technical support of a large game publisher. There are two important points I believe in here. Just one of them is individual, team or small team, and the second point is there is no financial or technical support. 20 years ago, when we said technical support, maybe we meant engine tools, and now they are free of charge. So maybe we can mean here now the marketing power when we say the technical support, because research engines are for free now. So in the game, just really contain these two important points: no financial support, no technical support. There are small teams as well. And also, according to Wikipedia, it says that their independence and freedom to develop in the games often focus on innovation, experimental gameplay, and taking risks not only afforded in AAA games. So these are our strengths: innovation, experimental gameplay, and experimental art. And your game, if you evaluate your own game according to these criteria, I think that it will be really helpful. What is expected from us? Small projects with a small budget, but they have to be innovative. And sometimes what we are capable of doing can be a little bit limited. So this is the general definition, and there are only like 5 columns that can just have a summary of it. Here you would see Stray as an indie game. Actually, it was rewarded. Stray was a candidate for the best game as well. God of War was as well in the competition. It was a candidate, the Stray. So such games, maybe we can have a look at them. We can try to analyze their stories, the content. There are two directors of the game, and they were working in Ubisoft, and they left Ubisoft. They're not coming from scratch. They are like two directors, and they worked for Ubisoft. They left the company, and they started this company in 2015. They worked for 2 years, really intensely. There are players, voluntary players, that are supporting as well the project, and they have launched their prototypes. And in 2017, the studio was founded with a successful funding project, and then the project was released in 2022. It was a little bit delayed because of the pandemic, and they were rewarded with the Best Independent Game Award. So it may be different than our own experience. Maybe majority of us never worked in Ubisoft. But in the end of the day, all of these games are called and labeled as indie games. So we also just see that this game called Stray also just cover the components of these requirements. Do you know anything about the most common mistakes that are done by the developers? Some of these common mistakes were watched a lot, which means that people are curious about it. People would like to learn about the common game development mistakes. It is really important to not to prioritize the gameplay. This is also true for the scenarios where the prototypes are not that good. By the way, I did not introduce myself. My apologies. I worked as a consultant myself I met here with a few friends. When I ask this question to people, what's your game story? They just start talking about the story. However, if we are not making a visual novel, if it is a game, it's really important to focus on the mechanics. If you're not sure about the mechanics, we shouldn't take any steps for the production. It can work separately in different subsegments of the sector. Videos and visuals, of course, they can attract attention. There is one thing that generally we skip, which is gameplay testing. It is generally lacking off. It's not about purchasing the game and playing it. It's not that. By the way, I really support the inner circle tests. They can give you great feedbacks, but it is not a technical testing because the parameters for the technical tests are different. Well, when the project grows, it's not really possible to do it everything alone, and as well making everything from the scratch is not that possible. I did it myself and I just regret about it. Unfortunately, the projects were delayed. Timing is really important, production timing. But when it gets prolonged, unfortunately, people just lose their motivation, and as well, you lose maybe your connection with the game. So it can even cause to the burnout. Thomas Brush, is there anyone who knows him? He's very popular. He's a YouTube phenomenon, has released as well his own games. He says that. Up until I had a child myself, I've always thought that my games are my children. So this is really the reality. Your games are not your children. You need to have a really actually a distant relationship with your games. You need to set some boundaries as well when we think of this relationship between the developer and the games. Right after completing the prototype game and present it to the people, we want people to love it. But sometimes we avoid the polishing. It's very actually normal because we get tired. We work maybe 15 to 20 hours per day. But don't forget one thing, peers play your game. And if you make a game today, the player who's playing your game, would you know the previous game that they had played? And they would make a comparison. Yes, you are in the game. There shouldn't be any actually comparison. However, this is not how the human brain work. So they will compare your in the game with the professional games. So that's why they will just see them mistakes. They will be really cruel. Be prepared for this. So avoid uh, avoid them actually the polishing. People just score what they see. Knowing what of unknown is, I believe, is really essential. So, as a person, yes, you may not know much about the optimization, but if you have some clues about the basics of optimization, you would know how to act and how to behave. Let me just share a story of a mistake. We really wanted to make an optimization of a character in the past. If you are to change the face or the hand of a character, you just think that maybe it is better to do it partially. But back then, we had no idea. We just thought that we could maybe cut, but the modeler just laughed at me and just quit the job. So, dear friends, while dreaming about the future of the game, you also should really make a prediction about what might happen in the future. So, there is like no knowledge of what unknown. Burnout is a common problem as well. Developers, unfortunately, just live it through. So, I believe that the first motto and the first message that we can get in here is that it's not possible to know it all. Game design document is a great guideline. If you are as working as one person, you don't need the game design document. This is what people say, but I don't agree with this idea. It is really good, I believe, to just have a checklist. It is really beneficial. We had a project called Adanat. It is still ongoing. I had no design document in hand back then. I couldn't really speak English that well, but I wrote a story in English, and there was a hero in the story, and I was talking about the story to everybody. And after a while, you just understand that you cannot do it alone because you need music, you need animation, you need to design the environment and architecture within the game. So it just turns out that yes, you need people, team members. So so maybe this is the case for you. You might start alone, but then you can invite other people into your team. People would ask you some questions, and if you just start giving responses orally to the other person, then people can actually share their feedbacks with you. Game design document, by the way, is a great tool to impress other people. First, a person that you will create a hype is your team member, and this document is great for this purpose. I'm an organized person. I like checklists. I like tasks, so that's why I use it. And by the way, while inviting a person to your team, you can use this design document because it will show that you have a plan and it will just create respect for you. By the way, you can find all the details of the design document in the internet, but there are some parts that you cannot. How would you do it, this design document? Some people just write texts. Some others just put some visuals. I use Miro application to prepare it. It is a free application. You can prepare visuals and the charts in Miro. Adanat project is here. You would see a lot of details in this game design document of Adanat. Game design document is the general photo of all your decisions in a nutshell. This is the cover of Adanat project. I have received a lot of feedbacks from people, and right after that, I prepared this document. It is composed of 50 pages, and then I just actually diminished it to 10 pages. This is the part that I find it the most beneficial. It is just as if I am an investor myself and I prepare these documents, and these are the texts, and I just make a research. And these are, by the way, all open sources in Steam in these genres. And here you would see the text, and also you would see the games, all the details, and income as well details. It's really easy to do. It will just take maybe like 2 or 3 days for you to prepare it. With the help of this document, I had the opportunity of communicating with people. It just opened a lot of doors to me. Even if you are one person, please still prepare it. You can really just gain a lot out of it. Prototype as well is really, I believe, important. Never just skip it. When to share the prototype with other people. Prototype is for you. It can be used for marketing purposes, but not in the first day. While sharing your prototype, you have to be really careful. An example from Adanat project. By playing with the angles of the camera, we have just used a little mechanics. So you would see the environmental design. You would see the details. What I see in here is that sharing the prototype first and just saying that this is the last version is not that really interesting. Instead, we can first share maybe the mechanics, and then we can share the final maybe version. Only then it can be really outstanding, I believe, and substantial. Adanat project was inspired by Song of Iron. You might know it. It was published in 2021. I started Adanat with Unity. 2D design was adopted. And then I have seen Song of Iron, and right after that, I made some adjustments and changes in my own project. While I have redesigned, for example, the camera angles. This person is, it is the example of Stray. On the first day, the wish list was 15,000. In a Reddit account, well, the number of the upload was 170,000. It's just like a dream, I believe. Reddit, by the way, is kind of painful for me because I don't speak English very well. But anyways, so here a friend called Joe made it. A person who worked in the animation sector for 15 years one day said that he would do his own game, and then he succeeded on it. You would see here these examples, people who have experience, they also launch actually their own games. People that are experienced in different areas can make games. There are a lot of indie people, even in this hall. There are people coming from different backgrounds. They one day might really wanna just make their own games. Hyping, of course, will help you out the financial issues, budget issues, and in Xbox, um, well, this game just actually received an offer, and Xbox really helped out to that game. I wouldn't discuss if the game was good or bad, but this is an example. I receive one question very frequently. Should we buy an asset or should we do it ourselves? I think this is kind of a permanent question. Maybe in Turkey there are a lot of reactions coming for it. If an asset is used, you can use it. You write code, you are a developer, but you don't know anything about the Blender, or you don't really have this an artistic eye or aesthetic eye. But you work in Ubisoft. There are different departments in a company, and each department works separately. And we are, as the indie producers, why do we want to just claim that we can do it all? If we can not do it, it is really better to admit it. So we shouldn't be scared of using the assets, I believe. It's also the case in Song of Iron. I have realized that we are sharing the same asset. But no one probably tells them that they are using assets. So, if you want to do everything from the scratch, and if you want to make everything with your own, maybe you need to rethink about it. You might plan of launching your game within a year. This might be your timeline. You just make the designing, and you just continue with the testing and the polishing, and in the end of the year you continue with the post-production phase. So it is a standard timeline. If you try to do all the assets yourself, then you need to sacrifice actually one of the components. I've shared in the beginning 5 columns, if you may remember, and this is somehow challenging. If you want to use one model asset, it's better to use it. But let me share my warnings with you. This is one of my favorite games. Richer, I really love it. I really enjoy the story and everything about the story. I love it. You see this circle, and even this circle, we understand that it's not an indie game. The land looks beautiful, the scene looks really beautiful. It is like a real photography. If you do not have a good pop line and about the shader programming, if you do not have sufficient information, do you see these lines? And it's obvious here, you would see that there is a difference in between this rock and that rock. So it makes us think that this is an indie game. Using too much asset is not a good thing always, because there is this problem of coherency and harmony. And by the way, this is just a raw visual. After processing it, of course, it's changing. Another issue is about you just see one character. There are some objects such as buildings, and there are some systems, textures we see. We see the plants and we see the landscape. Even in this small area, it is stressful. Um, so it is somehow like forcing the systems. This is maybe a small scene, but you still it's still forcing the system, and just gives you alerts. These 2 buildings are made via the 5 by using the texture. By putting some little masking, the same asset is used like a few times, and this is a unique scene. If we cannot do it, the budget will be 50% over than the initial plan. I would recommend, by the way, this interview to anyone who is interested. From Adanat, an example, what did we do and how did we solve it? Here you would see the bench, it is made of wood, and you would see the deck, which is made of wood. You would see the pier, and you would see the building, and as well the fence and the hedge. These are all made out of wood. We did them all, by the way, but in each one of them, a separate texture was used. Was it necessary? No, but I didn't know that was not necessary back then. So 60 FPS, you cannot sue it. You have to make like a lot of optimizations. I don't want to share any spoilers, but by exporting them individually in a Blender by changing all the UVs, we re-imported them all, and we have assigned a wood material and as well as stone material, and this is how it has formed. I had no clue that within the Unreal there was a modeling tool, but I had no idea back then. Unreal 4 was challenging, but it was easier for the Unreal 5. So by just changing the material, I could have done it. But I had no idea. We actually spent 2 months for this to change the texture of all the models. And in the end of the day, I have learned that I didn't know this. And when I look at Adanat project, well, we spent 1.5 years for the things that we could have finished actually within 2 months. These are all hidden costs. The number of the hours that you spend to design one thing. So, Adanat project. Well, we invested almost $40,000 to the project, unfortunately. You shouldn't do it. You shouldn't do it. This is my personal experience that I'm sharing with you. It was a bloody time for me. It was really painful. We waited for the character for 6 months, and people left the team. They lost their motivation. So if you know where to go, if you know the road, where to go, and as well your direction, then you should be really awake about all these, I believe, important details. Now, let me talk about gameplay testing. I wouldn't go into the details of the gameplay testing. It is divided into two, emotional test plus a technical test. Emotional test is for the ones who want to play the game, or maybe your relatives and your family. Is there anyone who have such a testing session? Very interestingly, what I see is that some people just sent me documents by saying that these are not correct. Have you ever received a video review? Well, I did it, and I was just like so surprised. I was telling the gamer that you're playing it wrong, and then it turned out that no, I did the game wrong, and the player was playing it correctly, actually. So that was the case. So I thought that the character would walk towards to the left angle, but should and is supposed to walk to the towards the right angle. So that was a kind of a mistake that I made. Unfortunately, it was even a deathful mistake. So please, you don't do it. If you are making a combat game, just put the character into the game right away. Then the character can start talking or walking afterwards. So if you're just having an emotional testing session with the game, please let people to just record the video. You would see how players uh, act and how they just move. If they react, for example, unexpectedly, then you can maybe revise the game according to their reactions. I'm about to finish. Audionaut can be summarized as a side-scroller action adventure. I used whiteboard from Miro. I as well used a narrative system from Artezy. Discord, I use it as an artificial office, virtual office. So, so engine, we started with Unreal Engine 4, 26. Maybe that was also a mistake. Maybe we were supposed to start with the 4.25. If you have a team, you can collaborate your project over GitHub. Few projects can work simultaneously, and if you work removed, it is a really cheap platform. 50 gigabyte is $5. So it's just like $5 of cost per month. And comparing to the other systems, it's cheaper. So we use that. Of course, it gave us some headache from time to time. Just be careful. Just watch a few videos before using it. GitHub. Okay. So by the way, my first emotional tester is my son. Your game is not your son. Well, he supported me the most. He hate his computer. He always complains that I am in front of the computer all the time. Well, it is such a business that you need to sacrifice a lot. You need to sacrifice from your family, from your fun, from your life. Harvest, well, I have been waiting to play it for a long time, but I didn't play it yet because I am looking for a leisure time to play it. Just be aware of this sacrification. You can contact to me via LinkedIn, via my social media accounts. Thank you very much. You can ask your questions anywhere in time. Thank you. Questions are inaudible to the interpreters. I think this is a good question. Thank you. Core mechanics. I do it in the pre-production because for the production, investments and the codes just become part of it. And the core, that's why is important for the pre-production. Sometimes during the production, we eliminate some of the ideas and we continue with other ideas. So I believe that prototyping can continue up until the revising of the project. Adding something in and taking something out. Of course, these are really possible. Another question? I think you have also asked a question about risk management, right? Game design document just gives us a vision. It is a roadmap. You write down the risks. If you conduct a few projects, Of course, you can just make a correct decision. I'm not saying that 60% of the decisions I make are correct, but it would mean that I see the risks. So that's why when we are over the prototyping, and by the way, we just test them out, and without changing the core mechanics, this is how we go. I can share my own experience. I'm not a master. And in my presentation, I have mentioned that I have been inspired by different games. These games just start with a network because their developers are from the sector. They already plan everything. So their success comes from network plus industry experience. And as well, there is 7 years of development. The project, for example, started in 2015 and in 2021 it was released. They had the time to maybe back off from the project. There was also social media hype, I remember. We need to just think them together, core mechanics. Yes, it is really important. There are Unity developers. Last tree, did you hear about it? It is also giving us all the time actually some inspirations. So these are all hyped games. It's not that they are just working on the teams that are not really that unknown. The games are very concrete. It feels like you are playing exactly with a cat. So the inspiration comes from the innovation. Well, if I'm to make an animal animation, for example, I would just try to do it better than Stray. Because I just look at the cat animations in Stray. The mechanics actually look really good. Nobody, no time, no risk. Well, is a conference. You can just watch it. If you haven't heard about it yet, you can just have a look at it. Yes, it is difficult. Thomas Brush says that I hate the game. This is what Thomas Brush says. From time to time, you might feel that you hate your game. Yes, there is this story, you make decisions, and it's difficult to organize them all. What's keeping me on the table? This game design document is keeping me on the table. For the first time, actually, I did it for this project. I plan to do the development for 1 hour, and for another hour, just I invited people, and for another hour, I was planning to just share my ideas in the Discord, and 1 hour talk with Jevher. So this is how I plan a day, and it's not normally what I do. So, game design document actually just makes me be just more disciplined. Day one, day log. You need to do it. You just need to just write hello world. And then just plan what you would like to show to the people. Don't show everything. Just people, well, just inform people about the progress. In your Discord channel, there might be 300 or 400 people waiting for your game, and after this point, you cannot just back off. By the way, they do help. Community management in that regard, I believe, is really outstanding because they give you feedbacks, they help you out. You see their reaction, and they are very sincere. Well, sometimes, of course, they criticize you, but in a very polite way. In Adanat, we have seen 20 people. Well, we started to it as volunteers. 3 characters were made by 3 different model makers. I think that that was a huge mistake. Nobody warned me, but it was an obligation. The core team was composed of 5 people, 2 sound people and 1 music. But in terms of mechanic design, we did not have many people, by the way. The music in Adanat is really great. You can just check it out in YouTube. We have 4 design documents. One of them is for assets, the other one is for level, the third one is for the performance. As well, we have a game design document. So we had like 5 design documents. We did it really good. We did it really good. We had the options A, B, C, D. That's why we're still on the table, and this is why still we keep working. We're in the phase of making a decision about Adanat. Probably Adanat will be an action combat game. This is the expectation about Adanat game. Any final comment of yours or any final question? I just wanted to share my personal experience. Thank you. Jevher is going to make a closing, I believe, right? Well, Togay has talked about his own experience about as if it is a really simple thing to do, but it is not. Anyways, thank you very much for your attendance. It has been a great day. We have heard so much informative speeches and presentations. Storytelling was one of the themes that we have talked. It is helping us out. core game. Core game is what we actually defend for, and a core game finally receives the appreciation that it deserves. In the way, for the first time, actually, we have seen it all. We have seen six indies. Their games are ready to be packed. It's not my personal comment only. My colleagues also would agree with this. Well, thank you very much to everyone in Ankara. Thank you all for sticking with us until the end of the event. We are in Ankara. This is one of the actually most populated in the way event. Speakers, well, were great. Buddha Games is one of our sponsors. Thank you very much to Buddha Games. And also, I would like to thank all game developers, producers that are coming from Istanbul. Thank you to our colleagues. I would like to thank to my team, my own team. Colzon, thank you to Colzon. This building is an amazing building. Thank you for coming, and hopefully we will see each other in the next in the game. Hopefully we will see the results of all newly and freshly designed games. Thank you.